Hello there. Welcome everybody to another episode of All Nicked Up. Yes, we are back. It was a last week we took off. Really didn't have much to talk about for the NBA draft. So we took the week to refocus and re-energize and get things going because as we know, the Knicks might not always do stuff in the offseason, but they're always rumored to be doing stuff in the offseason. So we're always prepared for that, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough material to discuss with you guys. And we have a little bit of everything today. We're going to do a little recap of the draft and just go through certain things that happened. Of course, the Knicks did nothing, didn't trade into anything either, so we won't have to talk about any picks they made, but they did sign a couple of undrafted free agents, so we will get into that. But as you guys know, I do not do this by myself. So let me bring Ty on first. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes. So last week we took off. We recharged the batteries a little bit.
You need that with the Knicks.
Yes, that is very true. That is very, very true. So yeah. So last time we were on, we did have a guest, and we were like, "What are we gonna do?" We asked him if he'd come back on, and he said yes. So the returning champion,
yes, sir,
Joe, is back.
Hello,
sir.
Greetings from upstate.
Yeah, guys. So Ty and I are on Long Island. Joe actually used to live on Long Island, but now he lives upstate New York. So the three Long Island guys technically, but one of us is decided to leave and probably smarter for it.
I consider myself to be a true New Yorker. I grew up on Long Island. I lived in Queens and Manhattan, and now upstate. So I've had like every one of the kind of flavors.
Yeah. Nice.
Upstate's nice. Yeah. You guys don't know.
No stone unturned. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's awesome though. But thanks again, man, for coming on.
Appreciate it.
It was great to have you last time. You kept asking me how you did, and I'm like, you did great. I said, I thought you were.
Yeah.
I thought you were really he's a good kind of, for me and you, Ty, we could get a little animated and a little loud sometimes. And Joe just kind of, right? I feel like he balances it out very well.
The whole segment, keeps us on, keeps us landing.
So we were kind of, we kind of need that from time to time. So like I said, we have a nice show planned for everybody. We're gonna do again a little bit. We're gonna go over the draft. We'll start with the NBA draft, even though, like I said, the Knicks were not involved. There were some people saying that they might possibly trade in. I heard they might trade for a late first at certain points. Then everyone's like, oh, well, there's tons of second round picks, so maybe they'll come in there. Of course, they disappoint us like always on draft night. Didn't do anything. I did watch most of it. I was just kind of laying around. I did watch a lot of it. I didn't watch all of it, but I did kind of flip around. Do you guys watch The Bear? Either of you watch The Bear on Hulu? FX?
We just finished the second season a couple of days ago.
So I started I watched season 1, and then last week season 2 came out. So I started watching. Yeah, me too. I finished season 2 last night. So very, very much enjoy that show. I think it's fantastic. And Ty, if you're not watching it, you should check it out because it's very good.
Check it out.
It's about cooking.
I thought that's what
it's about. This guy, he's a chef.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But very, very good show. Very well done.
Mm-hmm.
So I got caught up in that, and I was kind of bouncing back and forth between the draft and that show. So there really wasn't that many surprises, I didn't think, in the draft. Obviously, when Wembanyama went first, there was really no shock there. This is the third time the Spurs have had a generational talent, have been lucky enough to get a generational talent in our lifetime. Of course, we've had one, and they've had 3. So, yeah. What are we going to do? But he's got a weird body type.
Yeah.
He's got a weird body type. I always wonder how guys like that are going to be able to transition. Last year we saw with Chet Holmgren, who's, again, a tall kid, lanky kid. he had a foot issue and he was out for the year. So
Mhm.
that's something that's kind of common with guys that size. I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen to him. This kid looks fantastic. He seems like a really good guy.
Mhm.
So, Joe, Ty and I have talked about him a lot. What do you think of him?
Chet Holmgren? He's incredibly skilled. I mean, watching him
No,
play.
Victor.
Victor.
Wembanyama.
Again, incredibly skilled.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, something on your. I think you're freezing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a lag going on. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Victor Wembanyama, I've kind of tuned in a little bit during the season and watched some tape just out of curiosity.
Mhm.
Incredibly skilled, going to the right place. Absolutely going to the right place. And I'm telling you, I knew he was going to be a Spur. He had Spur written all over him the entire time. It just, I knew that was going to happen. They're interesting. They also have picked up some extra draft picks from the DeJounte Murray trade.
Yep.
Good young players
Mhm.
they can hang their hat on. Again, you're looking at a team that's poised again to be dangerous. Not now, maybe not next year, but again, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he's a Spur, and he is an excellent talent. And people may say he's skinny, he's this, he's that, but I think that's becoming less and less important for big men. I think mobility, having different skills. I mean, it's not a banging position in the same way it had been in years past. I think it's a perfect fit. I'm really excited to see him play and how he develops.
I think we'll be definitely entertained by this young man. I mean, we see a lot of people liken ball to what he might look like on the floor. Yeah, you don't need to be, you don't need to be a Thickums, a Thicky Henderson, or thicker than a Snicker bar to play in the NBA anymore. The Reggie Millers. Reggie probably looks like a bona fide pumping iron contestant for a magazine compared to some of these guys now, because the position in itself is morphed into basically taking someone who's just extremely tall and turning them into basically a small forward. Able to stretch the floor. The position's more mobile now. Often why I hark on guys like Embiid. I'm like, well, you really don't have competition right now. Basically the competition now is your shadow. So you can really go into the on the block and really do some significant damage against these obviously Mr. Thin men that's down there in the block, but they're mostly on the perimeter now. So it would be I can't see him not succeeding other than health being an issue.
No.
These guys unfortunately do tend to break down, or they do have that one injury, the foot injuries that these tall skinny guys tend to have in the NBA. But he's literally like looking at a 7'5" Kevin Durant right now.
Yeah.
Which is, people forget Kevin Durant's not a short dude himself. Kevin Durant probably would be a center, could be a center. I mean, what is he, almost 7 foot tall himself? I mean,
he's
with the guard range.
11, 7 feet.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not a template in place where you can see these guys surviving in the league in spite of the physicality. But, I mean, who really plays defense? Maybe the Knicks, maybe Miami. Maybe Pat Beverly, wants to let people know he plays defense still,
The Bucks play defense.
What's that you say?
The Bucks play defense.
The Bucks play defense, well, at least on the Budenholzer they did. We don't know what this new under Adrian Griffin is going to look like. The Celtics played it for a couple of years. Now they got rid of their best defender in Marcus Smart. So, now you're looking at, I don't know. I think Wemby is going to be fine. I mean, he's definitely got the right coach. He's in the right culture. Who specializes in more foreign players in San Antonio. So they're going to find a way of they had a picture up of his now new mentors, which is like Tim Duncan,
they went out to dinner together and took
so this is, I don't think there's a better place that he could have ended up, and I'm more than sure that he is extremely happy he ended up there. There's not a ton of pressure in San Antonio to produce in a big market. They can take their time and cultivate them and bring them along, and basically during that time they could probably tank still some more and add another significant piece to the core, which is going to be a great core going forward. I mean, I don't know. Eventually, they're going to have to get a point guard and a couple other pieces. So, they still, I would like their foundation. Who wouldn't want to have a peculiar talent like that, as your centerpiece? And now all of a sudden you're going to find a way of building out the team with the draft picks that you have.
And those Atlanta draft picks are going to look nicer too. I have a feeling Atlanta.
Yeah, man, Atlanta. I mean, like, what is going on with that disenfranchisement? I mean, you go from a team that was like, the darlings about a couple of years ago, where you saw them and everybody's like, well, Atlanta's coming, and you're waiting for the next season to come in. Where they always say, like, the shoe dropped, and it literally did drop, and it fell down the well with those guys, because you're looking at them and you believe they had something special going on there. But I guess it doesn't help when your ownership comes out and says he regrets re-signing the talent that got him to almost they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he said he regretted it. And he basically wanted to break up the team. I'm like, well, that's a way to reconfirm your team and tell them you believe in them. So, it was starting to break apart then. So, I mean, look at it. You're right. Those picks could be pretty good. And
the DeJounte Murray trade did not work out.
I didn't like it when I saw it. When I saw that, I always said, who's going to shoot? Trae Young gets a lot of credit for being Steph Curry with what I would say with a jerry curl, basically. That's all he really is. Minus the efficiency. I mean, let's just keep it. I mean, yeah, he could just shave it off. I don't know why he's even holding on to that cheetah. All of us lose it after a while, so you just kind of let it go.
That checks in the mail on him, you can tell.
Yeah. And you look at those guys. I mean, that team just completely became a disaster. Nate McMillan, they started tuning him out, and then moving on from there, Hunter's injury, I think, didn't help also, having that come around. And, they just kind of, like I said, fell apart as an organization. I guess when everyone's not getting the same message as far as throughout the organization about this is the direction we're going in,
right,
it becomes a little bit different for them. So,
well, the thing with Atlanta that's scary, and I know that this is kind of off agenda, but it is an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
They got themselves a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
But they are also working under ownership with the idea that they have to lower salary. And again, they held on to.
Yeah, it's going to be.
They held on to what's their power forward's name? Thompson, the one that they just traded to Utah.
Collins.
Yeah. They held on to him. He was part of every trade deadline discussion, every offseason draft. They've been trying to trade him, holding off for the right deal, and then they sent him for a second-round draft pick, just in a cost-cutting thing, which is not good for the morale of a team.
Exactly.
It's not a great fan market either.
No,
it's empty all the time, which I don't understand how a pro basketball team can't be beloved in Atlanta of all places. I don't know. I think some of the players on there can be had. I would be on the phone with them if I was a general manager, because when the owner's telling you to cut salary, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a definitive problem, because you're basically telling your fan base to go kick rocks and just to move on with your life, because we don't care about you're going to be able to win or putting a winning product out there. So it's very twisted. I mean, I look at a guy like Trae Young. I mean, he was thought to be one of the top 10 players, 10, 15 players, I would say, in the league at one point. Everybody wanted him, and now, he's got also the label of being a coach killer now too, with his ordeal with Nate McMillan. So, it's a lot of different things that are – I don't think they recover from this. For John Collins, you got you really got like, a couple of now laters and 2 second round picks for a guy that you thought was one of your better players.
Yeah.
That's
somebody they stubbornly hung on to too.
Yeah, they sold him. Yep. They had opportunities to sell him off to a higher bid. And I mean, I just think you think about it, they threw that guy away. I know you had no market for him. This is almost leading up to, I mean, granted, Bradley Beal had his say in where he landed, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was a little bit, I mean, they got the right to swap picks. I think it kind of got mixed up that people thought they got nothing, but they had the right to swap some picks with Phoenix. But like John Collins,
Chris Paul trade, getting Jordan Poole, I think for Chris Paul makes that trade look a little better. But
exactly. It looks like a stable franchise. Atlanta gave away one of their best players. I mean, you don't got to like Collins, but
right.
What is he? He's not. What is he? The third best player on the team? Maybe maybe third best player beyond DeJounte.
Probably
DeJounte better. I don't know. DeJounte. That's just a mixed up trade. I mean, you need two guys that can shoot, or at least one that can shoot off ball. In Atlanta, for as great as Trey is not a great shooter percentage-wise. So you are basically putting two non-shooters. Trey can't play off the ball like that, and he's undersized as well. DeJounte probably would have ended up maybe in Philly or something like that is where he should have ended up. Or at the time, New York was an option before we got Jalen Brunson.
I'm back.
He back.
Sorry about that, guys. I was having technical difficulties.
No problem.
We went completely off agenda.
Yeah. We went from Wemby to Atlanta, and
we lacked structure.
All right. Well, we were thinking the next thing we were going to do was really just discuss Scoot Henderson going third. I think a lot of people had Brandon Miller at the time going to Charlotte going second. Like that seemed to be the way things were trending, and he did wind up going there. So Scoot Henderson, who Ty, you and I have talked about in the past, and we both thought that he was the best, the next best player on the board for the entire draft. Like him and Wembanyama were the two best players, and then there was a drop. So he goes to Portland, and who knows? Maybe this is getting revenge. We'll be getting revenge for them for not taking Michael Jordan all those years ago. I mean. We don't know, but maybe this will be that kind of thing that happens. It works out in their favor. We don't know yet. But that does leave an interesting decision, though, for them to make. Now, we've heard – I'm getting kind of annoyed with him saying, like, he wants to stay there. Like, it's to the point now I'm like, all right, shut up. Like, just like, dude, just go somewhere where you have a chance to win, because right now they are rebuilding. They have Shaedon Sharp, they have Anthony Simons, right? Like they have Yusuf Nurkic is their center, I still believe him, right? Yes. And then Dame are probably the two oldest players on the team.
So also they have.
Well, he's a free agent. Jeremy Grant's a free agent. He's one of the guys that's actually available. But they really don't have a lot of veterans, and they're clearly trying to go the rebuild route. So, Ty, I know you're a big fan. You've always been a big fan of Lillard's. What do you think is going to happen there? Do you think they'll finally trade him? Miami's been talked about. He said Brooklyn. I don't know how much I believe that, but what do you think?
I mean, I'm one of those people, and I love Dame Lillard. That's the dude. Outside of the Knicks, I watch Portland. That's the one team because I like Dame's. Just his overall game. He's just a stud, and he's a killer. You gotta always enjoy watching those guys work in that realm of being. Your whole game is about really killing the other team, and you're good about doing it at the end of games. So I always admired that about him. However, getting past the admiration, I'm tired of his ass being in the paper about all of this other stuff about him.
Man.
Sitting around. I don't know if I want to come. I don't know if I want to stay. Maybe Mickey Mouse will come visit me and tell me, look, you're a grown dude. And we get the loyalty thing. We get it. I mean, it's definitely to be admired in this, especially in sports and in business. There's no loyalty regarding, that you're going to stay for the betterment of the company you work for, et cetera. with that being said, it's almost becoming an excuse to not go compete at a higher level, in my opinion. It's time for him to go find another star to play alongside and give yourself for your career a shot at win. It's almost like when you think about it, I'm not a big football fan, obviously, but it's like the Aaron Rodgers thing, going back and forth with your franchise. Like, are you just say you want to get traded? Just say, take that franchise and that fan base off the hook and ownership off the hook for not looking bad for trading you. Say, hey, look, you know what? It's time we all move on for the betterment of the franchise I love and also for the betterment of my career that's winding down. And I want a ring. I mean, he can't say he doesn't want a ring. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. Right. Do you want to make rap music and play in Portland? I mean, who the hell doing that? That makes no damn sense. But what makes sense is that you go maybe join. I mean, not that the Knicks would love this or us a fan base, but you go join Miami or you go join Milwaukee and go compete for a ring. Go compete somewhere at a high level because you still got years. You got about a couple of years left in your game of high-level basketball. And if you are maybe the second best player on that team, you can be the 1A or whatever, go. It's time to, what's that Frozen? Let it go. You got to let it go. You need to move on out of Portland. There's nobody. You're not going to recruit anybody. Allow Portland, the city you love, to reboot and rebuild that team and start over fresh. They got some really nice pieces in Portland. Scoot Henderson and those boys, just let them run. Anthony Simon's a very good player. Just let them grow. Don't block. It reminds me of a county worker that's been sitting. It's probably foreign to people that don't live in the county areas, but you've had this job for 55 years. Maybe you want to retire. You didn't enough seat cushions. Let someone else get in there and get an opportunity to get a job. The same thing with Damian. Move on. Just move on, and it's okay. I think people will respect him more now if he left than if he stayed. Like, you're past the years. We get it. You've stayed long enough. And the question is where? I mean, Miami. The Brooklyn thing just sounded weird. I don't get that. You're going to Brooklyn? I don't know. Places you're going to Brooklyn? That sounds like, didn't you learn from KD watching that? Why would you say, I'm going to Brooklyn? No, you should probably go to Miami or Milwaukee. Two teams that would definitely or even Philly, another team that could use you, that you can actually go on there and be a complete stud and have the right support as a team to get to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where I agree with you. The Aaron Rodgers thing was a good comparison. I mean, Rodgers was with Green Bay a lot longer, but still, he and that whole situation, like they were good for the most part while he's been there last year, being the aberration. But Joe, what do you think? Where do you see this ending for Lillard? Would you make that move if you were Portland? I think I
think Portland. No one wants to be the bad guy here. Mm-hmm. I understand it from the player perspective because I'm going to bring up a name, Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant went to go chase a ring. Now, granted, he has done some stupid stuff that has not ingratiated himself to the public, Twitter nonsense, burner accounts, all of that stuff. Yeah. But perception from being the golden boy changed on Kevin Durant when he left Oklahoma City to go pursue a ring. That's not going to happen with Dame Lillard, but is it crossing his mind? Mm-hmm. And again, on the Portland side, you have, they've had some nice players over the year. Brendan Roy, great player. Damon Stoudemire. They've had some good players roll through, but this is the highest profile player and the most beloved player that has been playing in that team since Clyde Drexler. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to run him out of town either. Portland needs to take the bullet. They need to make the trade. Don't have Dame demand the trade. He deserves better than that. Let him just go out the way he wants, be beloved, maintain whatever he thinks, is potentially in danger as far as his reputation in chasing a winner. Take that bullet for him. Mm-hmm. Just make the trade. Don't make him demand a trade. Make the trade because you have to make that trade. Mm-hmm. So you take a short hit on the fans. There's a little bit of outrage. And then they see a month of Scoot Henderson highlight films and that goes away. And then they start realizing what happened. Now, they have to play a little bit of chess. They have to make it seem like this or that. They have to maximize their return because they're also in a Beal situation without the no trade clause, and that they have to do right by Dame, just optics in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have to maximize their return. I think Portland needs to make the deal. I think they're kind of gaming things right now to get as much as they have, but you can't make Damian Lillard at this point request a trade if you're Portland.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Take the bullet, get what he can, move on.
That's a good take. I like that take.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely going to. It's got to come to a head at some point. I'm surprised it hasn't already, but with Portland going to him, like you said, being like, look, we'll put you wherever you want to go. Because he's never formally requested the trade. He's always been like, well, if I were to be traded, these are the teams I'd like to go to, right? Like he words it. Yeah. He words it very well. He knows how to play the game. So, and I think it's cool that he's not just being like, yeah, get me out of here like we've seen with other stars. So I do respect that part of it. It's just, it's better for Portland now if they were to move him. Like that's pretty much what it boils down to. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't think he would. I mean, right now, since the Knicks got Brunson, I don't think it'd be wise to add him. But especially with his age too, I don't think, as great as he is, I don't think the Knicks are Damian Lillard away from winning a championship. So, and what would you have to give up to get him? That's the other thing. What are the other pieces you'd have to give to get him? I think it just would be too much at this point. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But speaking of another one final thing on the draft, because it was fantastic and I loved it. And we've talked about, Ty and I have talked about, if the Knicks did get the Dallas pick during the year, we talked about this guy as being the player we thought would fit perfectly. And we're talking about Grady Dick from Kansas. And the suit he wore on draft night, it was clever. He's from Kansas. It was Ruby Slippered inspired from The Wizard of Oz. So that's why he wore that specific jacket and suit. I mean, props to the kid, right? Give him props. That takes a lot of guts. I know guys do that on draft night. They ball out. They try to make themselves, they wear some really interesting things. But I had to bring it up because to me, on a pretty boring draft night overall, like there wasn't a lot of fun stuff that happened.
Yeah.
That kind of caught my attention. So Ty, let me ask you first.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever wear a suit like that?
Oh, hell to the no.
That's like Nick City Dancers material, man.
Yeah, that's a good one, Joe. That's
let me point this out. Do you think our former co-host Craig would ever wear a suit like that?
I think he has one in his closet, actually.
No, if I remember correctly, a suit has to be taupe. Your go-to suit is taupe, I think Craig said once.
Yeah, he's very traditional. He's a traditional when it comes to suit. Well, it comes to a lot of things. Craig is very traditional. So that's man. I mean, that's a Clyde suit, right, Joe? Like that's something Clyde would wear.
Yes.
I don't think Clyde would wear that.
I do, though. I do. I think you would.
Clyde's got style. That was just almost like I don't know, man.
I feel like if it were the 70s, people would have just been like, it's okay. Like it's just wearing a suit.
Could have been a whatever moment. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, it kind of looked like the suit that Joe Pesci wore, My Cousin Vinny, the tuxedo he had to get after he go. It kind of looked like that. Like when I saw it, I was like, holy crap. Well, yeah, props to that kid, man. I hope he has a fantastic career. I'm a fan, so he's a tremendous shooter, but he can do other things too. He's not just a shooter. So it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see how his career ends up. Well, how a lot of these guys' career. I brought up Victor before. He has all this pressure. Will he live up to the pressure? It's gotten guys before. Scoot, I have no concerns about with at least him giving the effort to be that type player. And I've seen him play. He's, he has a lot of Iverson in his mentality. Like he plays hard all the time, plays every game like it's his last. So him, he's the kind of the one I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a really great career.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other guys, it's gonna wait to be seen. One other thing, did you guys think it was cool the Thompson twins going back to back, getting drafted back to back?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah,
That was pretty cool, right?
yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Those were actually two of the guys. Those two guys when we started talking. When I started looking at the draft. Anybody who knows me, I look at the draft like probably like the first Knick game and the first 3-game losing streak. I'm like, okay, let me just go and do the draft. Start doing my homework. I'm just not good at this. So I'm just a junkie about it. But those two, the twins, were the first two kids I started looking deep into. And the athleticism is clearly there amongst them. They're shooting. It's going to come down to can they shoot? That's really what it is. But it's a cool dynamic. I always say they've done everything together, basically throughout their whole lives when you look at it. And to know that they wind up in the NBA, I always think that's always fascinating when you get brothers that are in the NBA, and especially if they're twins, or you got the lineage like all the Ball brothers. I mean, technically at some point played in NBA game or been around the NBA, and then you got the Grant twins, and then their son of was it Harvey, has his two sons in the league. So it's a great dynamic when you think about it. That it's you're keeping it in the family that way, so it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of other twins. You have the Morris twins.
The Morris twins.
Lopez.
The Lopez twins. It's crazy.
There were some obscure guys I never knew. I think they're like new guys. They must be like the 15th man on the bench, but there's another set of twins in the league and I had no clue they were even who these guys even were.
Yeah, Caleb Martin has a twin.
Caleb has it, but there's another set of I didn't even know who these dudes was. I thought they were working in Texaco when I saw them. I had no clue who these damn dudes were in the league. But apparently there's another set of twins that's in there. But Caleb Martin has a twin, obviously. We know the Harrison brothers could have been the wackest Kentucky ites we had.
No, Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox. Well, Kevin Knox is their triplet brother. He just was like 3 years too late. But wow, Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get into a little bit about Kentucky and Villanova later because they have little discussions going on there about players. But so Alan Hahn, none of us would be sitting here talking if it wasn't for Alan Hahn's Knicks Fix. That's how we all met each other. So. He recently was talking about on his show. He was talking about the Knicks free agency and the offseason, and he said we really shouldn't expect much. Now, there are times when he says things, and I'm like, okay, but I kind of buy this because there really isn't much they can do. Number one, with the cap, they're capped out. They only have an exception, the mid-level tax, non-tax exemption, I think it's called, because they're not paying tax.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the only thing they have. So we've heard one guy where we'll get to him a little bit. We brought him up the last show too, but we'll talk about him a little more because it's headed that direction. But are there any little moves you'd like to see them make, and any players you can think about that you want them to add or try to add?
Little moves. It brings up a lot of the people you already identified in the last podcast, man.
Right.
Curry, I wouldn't mind seeing him coming off the bench, backing up the 1, possibly the 2. Dante DiVincenzo, another guy, I'm sure we're going to talk about him. There's a lot of smoke going on about that. And again, I kind of agree with Alan on this, man, because I don't see the deal out there. I don't see the big deal out there.
It really. Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
I would say that those areas that I would be interested in. We need shooting. That's
that's the thing.
This podcast was all shooters because it is our biggest deficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, who's like? I don't know. Like I was arguing with my friend. He brought up yesterday. He brought up Bogan Bogdanovic from Atlanta. Like, would they you want to swing a trade for him? My problem with him is I feel like he's always hurt. Like, there's something that always seems like he always gets these little nicks and bruises during the season. And what would it take to get him? Like, he's not a free agent, so you'd have to trade for him.
Mm-hmm.
So what would it take to bring him in? I mean, I think he's a good player. I just don't know if I'd want to make that move, and knowing his injury history and what are you giving up for him?
You know who I like, actually? Detroit, the other Bogdanovich, the other shooter. He can actually he can actually defend. He's signed. That's somebody that's crossed my mind too, just to kind of throw that out there, because I think he's gettable. Detroit's not there. He doesn't make sense on Detroit. Detroit's building
100%.
something nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the north side of 30. He's probably 32, potentially 33.
Yeah, I think he is. Mm-hmm.
I could see him getting burned with Tibbs because he can defend.
And that's always the other layer to this, right, Ty? Like, we have to think about the coach.
It's always, for me, that's when I go through a list of, like, I can always figure out a lot of guys, like, when looking through even free agency, not like it's a great free agency list, but I'm like, well, this guy might fit, this guy might fit, this guy might fit. And then I'm like, well, will he even see a minute? Because I say that about a lot of the current Knicks players. When I look at our bench, I'm like, well, if this guy could get more minutes, maybe that helps the team a little bit more. Because, you know, I think internally there's things the Knicks could do to better their squad. You know, the current squad, instead of going into free agency to search for some of these people, you know, maybe you do have a gym that you're not utilizing enough. You know, I mean, I'm not talking like Trevor Keels or somebody like that. I'm just saying maybe you give a bigger role. Maybe you bring in, you know, you got guys on the bench that can get more. Maybe you give Obi 20 minutes. You know, we're searching around for these stretch fives and then, you know, oh, who's going to replace Obi? And I've always been of the mindset, well, why don't you just give Obi more damn minutes? He's more efficient than some of the players they're looking to try to bring in. So just give him a bigger role. I need these guys a bigger role. That's why it's so hard to kind of like, you know, kind of evaluate the Knicks, because the coach limits a lot of these guys. We don't know, you know, what if you asked of them what they're capable of doing. And like I said, you go down. I mean, Naz Reid was somebody people talked about. They said, "Oh, well, maybe we'll go after Naz Reid." Obviously, got signed, and that's a bye-bye, you know. And he's mini, and so. But it's like, oh, what, you think Nas is going to – you think he's going to – I mean, maybe Nas the rapper might have got more minutes than Naz Reid, because Thibodeau's going to go with Mitch, and he's going to probably go with iHeart. And Naz Reid's not getting minutes.
No.
What do you think? Oh, people might say, oh, trade Obi out. He's going to play the 4. He's going to get the same minutes Obi was getting. You know, do you pay these guys to do something in the hopes of they're going to come in and be able to play in New York? That's the first thing. There's always, I never understand this about New York Knicks fans. You find a player that can play here, you keep him. You don't trade him. Keep him. You keep him unless he's like complete dog caca. I mean, you kind of keep the player and say, maybe you don't have a prominent role as a starter, but we can use you with some bench depth, because you've proven that you can actually give us some quality minutes when called upon and not be under the pressure of believing you're going to shrink in the moment. So short list, I think Dante is the list. If I had to pick somebody out of the head, you know, Eric knows I've said off camera, I've said, which is so funny, it came up, I said, doesn't it just make sense that they just signed Dante DiVincenzo and forgo this whole free agency thing? I said it. I said, just forgo the whole thing. I said, it makes more sense just to sign this guy who's going to take a contract, because he's only making $4 million now. I say only making $4 million. Like, I wouldn't want the $4 million. I would love to have the $4 million. But however, I'm saying on the grand scale of the NBA, he's going to get a huge pay increase.
And he's
probably worth that kind of money to begin with, to kind of come on and contribute if given minutes and the opportunity, and not go through this whole proving himself. He can't be ahead of Emmanuel quickly on any night, because Emmanuel's been here 2 years. Yeah, it's the garbage in the coach that bothers me more.
Well, that's going to be the interesting thing, because if they do sign him and they don't make any moves, I mean, there's a ton of guards. Knicks have a lot of guards already.
A lot of guards.
So where are you playing?
There's got to be something else. Yeah, there's got to be something else going on.
Yeah, and Same thing with Hart. Like I look at them like it's the same thing to me. Like if they're gonna keep Josh Hart, are you gonna then sign Emmanuel quickly? Like it doesn't make sense. If you're bringing in Dante, what is to me if they do sign Dante and they sign Josh Hart, quickly better look at fill out the change of address forms that because
it's got to be the move.
Or Jamel.
It's a game either.
Yeah.
I
Like
want
there's
devil's advocate with him for a second though.
okay.
Don't get me wrong. I like the DiVincenzo move. I like Villanova guys. I used to go to the basketball camps at Villanova when Rolly was there. I mean, I've got roots for Villanova. I just don't see him as the type of shooter that his last year's numbers say. He got those on Golden State.
That's correct. Good one.
He was not the first perimeter defensive, assignment on that. I mean, nothing for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Having Klay Thompson there, having Steph Curry there, I think probably had to do something with that number going up as it did. I mean, he was usually about 36%. You go to Golden State, all of a sudden you're hitting near 40. Mm-hmm. That's because concentration is elsewhere, game planning is for elsewhere and stuff like that. So I do look at that number that he shot last year, kind of a little, maybe not.
That's a legit question, to be very honest. I mean, I like Dante, but that's a legit question. Was it a system that allowed him to shoot that high percentage? Because we know coming here,
he'll be focused on.
And there won't be a system either. So there won't be anything highlighting shooting. You just got to be a damn dog in New York and get your buckets, because there's no offense. You might be offended, but you ain't get no offense. There's no offense in New York being ran by this coach. So I think the question is that can Dante be a playmaker who can get his own shot and be willing to leave it all out on the floor, similar to Josh Hart? Because you're not going to get at this offensive juggernaut system that's being played. We need shooters, but I don't know. Like a lot of people were saying when the Miami Heat had those, Strus and all those guys are going to be available, and Gabe Vincent. And I'm like, well, they work for Miami. Mm-hmm. You think Tom's going to run what Spo was running to get these guys open looks? Hell no. Hell no. Anybody who lets Julius Randle be the centerpiece of an offensive scheme has no clue about running an offense to get these guys solid looks. Jalen basically dribbled the air. I love Jalen Brunson, so there's no slight against him. But he patted the ball and dribbled the air out of the ball and then got his shot. And they were miraculous and great and spectacular and all that, and a bag of chips. But what he needed to do was pass those free throws to the perimeter to help other guys get shots. And he failed at that. That was not a strength of his during this introductory year as a Knick. He did not make guys around him terrifically better as far as saying, I'm going to get you an open jumper. Because we got a shooter. Quinn Grimes should be getting at least 10 looks a game. Good looks off of a perimeter, like how Jalen can get into the paint. Quinn Grimes should be shooting the DiVincenzo numbers that he's getting in Golden State. For a guy who can break down a defense like Brunson can, everything should be an open look. When Grimes sees him, his eyes should get wide as a deer in headlights and saying, I'm knocking all these jumpers down.
But Grimes has that same thing you were talking about, RJ, last week. He's got that deferential thing. He is not inserting himself into the offense. Two guards always down in the corner, spacing, everything like that. At some point, you're going to have to assert yourself. You're going to have to take your shots, all of those things. I mean, not only can he shoot, but also off the move.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good creator off the move. I mean, he's got skills, but it's that differential thing that you were talking about with RJ too. Kind of like, I'm going to let my big brother Julius shoot 8 threes a game kind of thing without understanding that really you should be taking 4 of them.
Yeah. Yep.
The great,
Go ahead.
Well, I was just quickly looking at Dante's stats, and it seems like the healthier he is, the better he shoots.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's common knowledge. But if you look at his stats, the seasons he's been the healthiest, he shot the best from long range.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an issue with him, though. He has been injured. He has had injuries in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gonna give him money, you have to do it with thinking it's possible he's gonna get hurt. But I just don't think if, like I said, if they're going to go that route, then Emmanuel quickly is not coming back, and they need to make a move. And that's probably why. And if they sign him, they probably do have designs on including quickly in a package for someone. I just don't know who that player is. I've heard there was a couple of trades tossed around in ESPN. I think it was Bobby Marks, who had a Karl Anthony Towns trade again. We talked about him last time. I'm a fan of his. I think, again, I have problems with his, I don't want to say desire or passion, but I guess that's the only way you can say it.
Mm-hmm.
I have problems with that when it comes to him. I mean, skills-wise, he's phenomenal. There's no reason why I wouldn't want him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if they're keeping Julius Randle, then why bother? Like, don't go that route. I don't think they're a good pairing. So, forget that idea. There was another trade that they put. Craig sent it into our chat yesterday, and I was like, "There's no chance in hell I would." I think it was for Paul George. I think that was the other.
I think it was.
And again, I don't understand the obsession with Paul George. I like him as a player. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a two-way player, which is getting more and more rare in the NBA. So when you have a guy who could play elite on both sides of the ball, you kind of highly value them. I don't understand the obsession with getting him when he's 32 years old and has had injury issues the past few years. Like, why are we going to do that now? It doesn't make any sense. So, and the what they want for him and the packages you see, they're ridiculous. Like, you'd have to gut your team for a guy. Yes, he's been a multiple-time All-Star. Mm-hmm. All these accolades you could say. He had that horrific injury. He's come back to be an All-Star. I mean, everything you'd want. He's a good dude. All that stuff is correct. We're not in that space for that kind of a player. I don't see that being the move. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know who they would be looking to get. But they've been patient, and we have all clamored for years, let's do a rebuild correctly. Let's be patient with our talent. We're doing that now. But see, when you have these seasons like we had last year, everyone wants to rush it forward. Like, we need to get there faster.
We can't have that mentality.
I agree with you, but that's what we're sitting here logically thinking about. Okay, we're older guys, so we've been with this for a while now. We're like, what's another year? What's another year or two?
I could do a year standing on my head.
Yeah, dude, I've been waiting long enough. I want to be sustainably good. I'm fine. Let's wait till we get the right guys, right? Like, that's what you want. Yeah. But these younger kids, this younger generation, they're the immediate gratification generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call it.
No, they don't know what it's like to look at an encyclopedia. They just open their
The young ones, it's the majority of the fan base because they're starving. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
But we have an opportunity now with the assets we have, the composition of the team right now. We have an opportunity to potentially put ourselves in a position to go for it. You got to be patient.
I think this is what Derrick and I talked about this dude earlier. If it wasn't today, it was yesterday, whatever. We talked about OG Anunoby. And I asked the question, I asked E whether or not him on this team, what do you think would be the difference maker? And lo and behold, he comes out, he's a CAA pipeline again. So
today, yeah.
So I'm going CAA connection here. Would an Emmanuel say FVV Van Fleet? We don't know what's going to go on with him. It looks like he may go to Philly. That's been talks about that. LA's been talks about that. Would Toronto be interested in trading OG for, say, Obi and Emmanuel quickly?
No way. You got
and the picks. I mean, they would need a point guard in Toronto at that point. Quickly's a budding young player to go with the rest of those young dudes that's there. Outside of Siakam's the old guy there. You got Gary Trent, another veteran. And you got Obi Toppin. So OG's a free agent after this year. So they can't. He's gone one way or another because he does. I don't think he wants to be in Toronto from what all the rumors said. So, and Obi clearly doesn't want to be in New York. I mean, he wants to be in New York, but not with Thibs. So you move him and Emmanuel Quickly. Both would get better, stronger minutes. And you move OG to the Knicks, and you let the Knicks negotiate with an extension for him if they want to pay him. With that core, it would give Tom Thibodeau that defensive dude that he would love to have, a guy who's capable of being a defensive player of the year candidate, like a Jimmy Butler type. Next to RJ, next to he clearly strengthens the defense. What do you think about that? Would that be? I'm not saying you get you a chip, but would that be the move to move Emmanuel once you say you signed DiVincenzo, and you could maybe parse off Obi and IQ because they have no plans for the future with them as Knicks.
I think you make that move every single time, but one of the problems with a lot of the deals that are out there, like people talk about Embiid becoming available. Look at who the GM is. Masai isn't making that trade.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's already bent us over.
Not here, yeah.
He was talking about like 3 unprotecteds in a player of the trade deadline last year.
Yeah.
Like that's an outside trade. He's not going to trade it for Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin. And again, they talk about the Embiid trade. You have to look at who you're dealing with. You remember the Tracy McGrady negotiations? Harold Morey just said to get Tobias Harris, he said he would need Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and a pick. So that's never happening.
He muted that button real quick.
Even if you're talking about, Minnesota, this is coming off a GM that was humiliated during the Gobert trade. He is going to be looking for blood. It doesn't look like a fertile ground, really, for making a trade. But if they offered that trade, OG Anunoby for Obi and Quickly, you make that move every time.
Well, you probably have to, like Ty said, pick. But yeah, I mean,
it's going to be pick. I would think it would be pick heavy, and you may need to involve the third team. Maybe somebody.
I just have a hard time trading all of that for a guy like him.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. Right?
That's it.
Obi's going to play behind Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, that's true. You go there.
Well, Obi's life doesn't get any better. Obi's going to be a backup. I hate to tell him. He's probably going to be a backup. Who is he starting at? When you think about the league, just take a team like OKC for.
I like to go into Indiana.
You can't go to OKC and start.
No, he would have to go to a place where they don't have an established, like Washington. Probably right now would be a great place for him to go with what they're doing with their team.
San Antonio too. That might be.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Victor be throwing him lobs like the way that guy plays. Victor be setting him up on the lob. But yeah, I mean, that's it.
Charlotte maybe also.
Well, Bridges is coming back, even though he's more of a 3. So maybe they'd play Obi there. I mean, yeah, playing with LaMelo, he'd get plenty of lobs playing with LaMelo. Get plenty of those plays. But there's more to his game. Wherever he goes, I hope they use him actually as the player I saw at Dayton, which we hadn't really gotten a chance to see here in the NBA. But yeah, I mean, we've seen flashes of it where he's been able to put the ball on the floor and make moves going to the basket. That's something I would like to. I don't want them to get rid of him, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm just stuck with Randall and I have to deal with it. Like, let's just keep going. Yeah. All right, so let's move on. We're talking about Obi. Let's move on to the audio clip that leaked. Now, when was this exactly? Like, do you guys know the time frame?
Game 4 versus Miami.
Okay.
After the loss, and that transpired in the locker room.
I mean, I can't say what he said on the audio clip,
Yeah, I'll have to be the I'll have to be the interpreter. In a roundabout way, it was that these ninjas is wilding.
Yes, you hear him calling out for Tibbs, right? He's like, "Yo, Tibbs." He says that twice. I don't hear what Tibbs, if he answered him what he said. Like, I don't hear anything coming back. I just hear Obi continue it and say he's wild. Like, Ty put it much more colorfully, but yeah. So it's funny though. That news came out right before the draft, right? Like that little bit of information, right? So everyone's like, "Oh, that's to trade him." Like that's my immediate reaction. I'm like, they're putting this out there so if they trade him, they could say it was because of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's one of the reasons why. I can't. I mean, it's crazy nowadays that we can that someone is actually finds these clips or hears these clips, is recording them, and decides to like toss it out social media. It's nuts.
That was
Joe, what did you think when you heard this thing? What did you think?
I thought it was planted. I thought it was from Obi's camp because, again, I don't blame him at all. He should.
I don't either.
There is a financial incentive on his part. I mean, the way things are going with him, he's going to have to sign a 1 or 2 year deal, prove a deal after his rookie contract, and then try to get paid afterwards. And he's an older contract player. So, messing with his money. My first thought was Obi's camp planted it. I don't know. It just seems like his best interest is to get the heck out of Dodge. And I think it is in his best interest. So you're looking at something, I think there was something he said like that Tibbs didn't know how to coach. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, that's embarrassing to the coach, who has a lot of sway in the organization. Maybe it was trying to kind of push himself on out.
Fair.
Make it look ugly. I wouldn't blame him.
I agree. Yeah. So, Ty, but what, I mean, we have said on this show we don't play for him, but we have said at times Tibbs can't coach.
Oh,
yeah. But this is not the first time we've heard players say that about him. Like players on other teams have spoken about him in this regard. So, now that we have a Knick saying, or we're hearing a Knick say it, what do you think that does inside the organization? Do you think they're like, now, you know what, maybe we need to listen to the players?
Well, I think it puts him on notice. I mean, really on notice. I think it puts the org on notice because not only do you have it's one thing when you had Cam Reddish maybe saying it and Cam had the reputation, that preceded him coming here, that he was just a lazy player, whatever, He might have been more interested in going and getting a Slurpee than playing on the court. He came with that bag. But a kid like Obi Toppin, I can call him a kid. I mean, because I'm a lot older than him. But a kid like Obi Toppin, who we know gives all out effort on the floor, who we know plays, with a tenacity and a certain grit that New Yorkers appreciate. And it's hard to get us to appreciate any damn thing on the basketball court. Nobody's questioning Obi's work ethic. People may say they might not like certain things about his game, but he's going 100 miles an hour the whole time he's playing the game. He plays with a certain energy level that we wish all the Knicks players would play with. For him to say this don't sound, that you're messing up, and that, and kind of reinforcing what we've all said, you're messing up this kid's money. You're not playing him right. You're benching me too early when I've got it going on. I think, if anything, it kind of put Tibbs in the light of maybe players don't come here because they know that about you. Now the organization has to do an effort, which I think we did kind of see it in the sense they signed Jacob Toppin to kind of smooth over because there was no need for Jacob Toppin. So you kind of signed this guy that's like, oh no, we're good with Obi. We like our players because we know the Knicks are about window dressing. This is a window dressing. They put a Band-Aid over the bullet wound to say we're not mad at Obi. We like our players. But lo and behold, I think if you look at the totality, when polled about who you don't want to play for an NBA, Tom Thibodeau was at the top of the list amongst players. Now you got a kid like Obi, who we know he's all smiles. Seems like probably one of the nicest guys. Probably with the cameras off, he's probably a very nice guy. And now you hear him exploding in the locker room. You know, like we looked at him when he did that against RJ, and we're like, well, you kind of had to ask, what did RJ do to him? Because you don't think it was Obi did something to RJ. So you're watching this guy who seems like the guy you want in New York and the guy you want to maybe leave with your kids to babysit, and all of a sudden he's imploding on the coach and questioning whether or not he can coach. Something we've all done. RJ's even done it. He's done it silently because he decided he didn't want to do the post game. So he didn't do the post game because he was not. He'd been benched at the wrong time. We've watched this unfold. It's just now Obi gave a voice to the fan base and probably to some of his teammates. I mean, unwillingly, and that has got to be something that the Knicks front office has to look at and say, well, we can't afford to have one more player say that, and then expect to attract a free agent here, because that's really what it comes down to. They go after Karl Anthony Towns, like that's been talked about, obviously, ad nauseum. But what is the one thing they always say? Can he play for Tibbs?
Yeah, they apparently had issues when he was in Minnesota, when Tibbs was in Minnesota. When he was a younger player then, but they apparently had problems then. So
Embiid has leaked it. Embiid has said through whoever, I would come to New York, but I don't want to play for that coach.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Tibbs earned his reputation, by the way. It's not like somebody's making this up. He's earned his reputation of being, rigid. And when looking at the playoffs, what have we all said? Basically, Spoelstra spanked him.
Yeah.
He got spanked by a better coach. He can't adjust. He's too rigid in his rotations. All these blah, blah, blah. New York at some point has to recognize that they have a coach that built a culture, and that's where it should end with him.
Yeah.
He gave a foundation and integrity or accountability for a team of young players, and he's established that about the Knicks. But in nowhere should someone think that this coach is taking us to the finals.
No.
It'd be the greatest luck in the world if he took us and won the championship, because he's a limited coach. He's really an assistant coach that overachieves as a head coach. That's what I look at him as.
It was the right hire at the right time.
Yep.
It made us a playoff team, and we badly needed to be a somewhat consistent playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wasn't winning with Chicago, with those teams, he's not winning with this team.
No,
and Karl Anthony Towns, he will use him wrong. He will use Karl Anthony Towns wrong.
Yeah.
I like Karl Anthony Towns. I would like him here, but not in the circumstances. $50 million to space the floor? No way.
No. Yeah, he's. I don't know. It does. I mean, it always comes back to two things: Thibodeau and Randall. Like it really comes down to those two. At least for me, those two factors. It's crazy that. I mean, it's crazy that I'm saying this again. I say this many times. I'm saying this about a guy who, the past 2 of the 3 seasons, has been an All NBA player, but still, right? Like he's one of the 15 best players in the league. If you go by that, 2 of the last 3 seasons. But it's up here. We've talked about this too many times. It's up here with him. He's just, And then Tibbs, like everything you guys said, it's the exact same thing. He's too rigid. Can't really adjust in game, which bothers me. Like, why can't you make in game adjustments? He's not good at it. Mm-hmm. And Ty, that's a perfect way to describe him. He's an assistant coach who just overachieves as a head coach. And he demands a certain way to do things, and that's been great because that's what they needed.
It's helped the culture, definitely.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But this is it's another sign of a player saying, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, basically. And that's terrible. Yeah. That's terrible for a franchise who already has a hard time, where players have said, we just don't want to go to New York.
Yeah.
And now you're adding this layer to it.
And the Rich Paul layer, basically.
Yes.
That there's criticism in the locker room. The thing was that it was rumored that Cam called him out too during a practice and said, you don't know what the helicopter that you're doing
You
and
can
how
say
to
hell.
play. So when you start hearing these players coming out, it's just not the bigger voice player. A guy like Randall's not going to complain about him, although they did say the same thing. Let me rewind that back, actually. It was talked about in the Atlanta series during the bubble year that Randall complained that Tibbs' game plan was terrible. So we've heard players, kind of whatever. We just haven't put a microphone in front of their face like Obi. He didn't have it in front of his face. Somebody hit it in a sock drawer or whatever. But needless to say, when we haven't heard someone come out and verbalize in public that this dude is horrible. But now we do have a nice little sound bite of a player basically losing his top right in the middle of the locker after a loss, saying, "You couldn't coach. You got out coached," basically, is what it says.
Yeah, he's very similar to me to Buck Showalter in baseball.
That's a good comparison.
He's a manager who is good instilling a culture and we formulate maybe not this year with the Mets, but still he's very good at building culture, getting guys to play a certain way, and then he can only take you so far. You need someone else to close the deal, and I feel like that's where we're at with him.
Maybe if the Villanova pipeline continues, we'll get Jay Wright.
That would be the most beautiful.
Dude, don't even say that. I would love to right here.
Jay Wright
having a heart attack. I don't think he likes him.
Who knows if these guys keep showing up?
Well, I remember when he stepped out for Villanova, I said that to the guys. I was like, "Oh, maybe he'll come coach the Knicks." And that was my first response. So it would be fun. I'd love Jay Wright. I mean, I got to meet him when he coached at Hofstra, because that's where he started. That's how he built his name. Was coaching at Hofstra. So
we need a tactician.
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days where I remember when Larry Bird coached the Pacers. It was really Rick Carlisle who was the one who was putting together all the game plans and stuff like that. Phil Jackson gets all the credit for the Bulls, but it was Tex Winter really who was doing all the X and O's behind the scenes. So, if we had a guy like that and Tibbs allowed it to happen, then I think you could have him here as your coach. But he seems way too much to want to be controlling everything and have his,
Tibbs is like Julius, though. He thinks he's good at things that he is not good at.
Well, yeah.
Like, for example, Julius was in the three-point shooting contest this year. That is a lack of awareness. Breaks a lie. It's the same thing with Tibbs. Like, I remember Tibbs at the end of the season talking about his offensive efficiency as a dude. No. I think he said something like, "Well, people talk about defense, but our offensive efficiency," and he was trying to kind of tout that up. And
even I said, even his 3-point defense, I've said this many times during the year, he points to how good the percentage is, but I'm like, you give up more than anybody else. And they're like third, giving up many shots. I'm like, who cares about the percentage? It doesn't matter.
Make them say whatever you want them to say.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
all right, so really quick, we have to say goodbye to somebody who this was his second tenure here with the team. Derrick Rose will not be kept. The Knicks are not going to pick up his option, so he will be a free agent. I will say this: when they got him, the bubble season, when they got him, if they did not get him, they would not have finished fourth, and they would not have, even won the one game that they won against Atlanta. They would have got swept. He was so good for that one stretch, and I think that's why he got paid, and that was fine. Not mad at him. Last year was an injury-riddled year, and then this year he obviously didn't play as much. I don't know how much he actually has left. I haven't heard him say he wants to retire, but maybe the writing should be on the wall. He could have. I mean, if he couldn't play for us last year, then I don't know where else he could go and play. But I just want, from me anyway, as a guy who loved him in college, he went to the Bulls, so I hated him in Chicago. But the first time around here was a little bumpy, and after that he kind of refocused and changed things wherever he went. Had to rebuild himself. Did it in Minnesota, and then he came here again, and it was Detroit for a little while, right? And then he came here, and just a really, really seems like a good dude, good player, great player that was able to adjust his game and still become a productive player in the league. And it sucks that he's leaving because I think he's a good I think he's probably a really good locker room guy. But hey, yeah, but the money just it doesn't justify him not playing. So I don't know. Any parting words for Derrick Rose, guys?
I'm really sorry, Derrick Rose, that Phil Jackson wasted your first tenure by sticking you in the triangle. That's what I have to say to Derrick Rose.
Yeah, Derrick Rose, I mean, I've always been a fan of his. I mean, you know, saw him in obviously in college, and then I mean, when you think about highlight dunks, from a guy, man, I don't recall. I mean, we've seen dunkers. I mean, obviously, I mean, Dominique, I think about the most explosive, powerful dunker in the game.
Vince Carter.
You know, Vince Carter, Dominique. You know, these lanky guys or whatever. You'll see that they look like dunkers. Then you see this kid come, and it's just like, man, when he said jump out the gym, he damn near well did most of the time on some of those lob passes that he should never catch. And he just running down full speed because he had a combination of just the speed and the power.
Strength, yeah.
And strength. And when he exploded, man, that dude, you just got out the way. And some of it happened against the Knicks, I mean, unfortunately, but we've seen some plays, and his highlight reel is second to nobody. He loved the game. You know, when you hear about him doing any interviews, he's a very humble guy, but he lived and ate basketball. That's what he did. And it was a means to an end for him. I mean, it's great. He was a classy guy being here in New York. Kind of one of those guys, what we always do, we get our Rasheed Wallace when he's almost dead. Same thing with Derrick Rose, you know, guys that we know could play in New York that we wish we had, as opposed to other franchises being able to draft him. You know, Derrick Rose falls underneath that, you know, that umbrella of a guy that we wish we had in his prime. I mean, he would be celebrated on a whole different level if he won an MVP here in New York. We never had one of the best players in the world since Willis Reed. This is the only one that was an MVP. We never had that dude. So unfortunately, we got him during the belt scandal the first time. And, you know, and then we move on from the belt scandal. You know, and then he left the reservation. Nobody knew where he was. You know, Derrick's had a tumultuous roller coaster here. But then when he came and showed up after getting traded from Detroit to here, you know, like he said, we would not be in the playoffs, in my opinion. I 100% agree. You know, the locker room presence was great for him to have, to be around. Just seemed like a good dude, like the guy that, you know, he's found a different spiritual level. He always said he wasn't going to chase a ring. He felt like he had won by being in the NBA and being able still to play. So, you know, big up to D Rose. Good dude.
Do you know what I noticed between when you look at the contrast between the two tenures? Mentally, his first go around, he was not over the injury. I don't think he had confidence in the way, and he played that way. He played so much looser, so much freer, and planted with confidence a lot better in the second time. You know, I wish him the best. I mean, I'm glad that we got to enjoy some Derrick Rose.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's one of the guys where I didn't. When they first made the trade together the first time, I didn't love the trade. I remember I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that was him with Noah at the time. They both came over at the same time, right?
Yeah. So I didn't love it, but I mean, I can't. This time around was completely different, and he's so. Yeah, whatever he does, I mean, whether he continues to play, I hope he can go somewhere and actually play for that team if he's going to continue to play. And if he decides to hang it up, man, he's had a great career. Another guy the Knicks were in the lottery for, didn't win.
Back to Chicago, even though Chicago isn't good, he's such a quintessential.
Yeah, that's where he's from.
He's so tied to that city and from that city. I think he's getting to the end of his career. I think that would be an appropriate send-off, and the love would be real, and it'd be overflowing, all of those things. And, you know, Chicago's not going to win anything, but it would be a nice way for him to go out.
Would be. I agree.
Yeah.
So, Ty,
go ahead.
So you touched on this before. You started going down this road, and I'm going to open the door now because we have an agency war going on, and of course, because the Knicks are basically run by the guy who started CAA.
Mm-hmm.
Not basically, they are run by the guy who started CAA. Let me just put that out there. This factors in even more heavy, right? So apparently, Rich Paul does not want his players to come to the Knicks because A, they're difficult to deal with in negotiations, number one, and two, because he feels like CAA is steering their clients to New York. Now, I can't stand Rich Paul, so I'm going to be completely transparent. This guy wasn't even an agent, and if you didn't know LeBron James, no one would know who the hell he is.
Nope.
So that's number one. But it is kind of funny that he's the one making these complaints when he steered his client, Anthony Davis, to play with LeBron James, right? In LA, am I wrong in saying that? So I mean, like, come on now, like, I don't know, it's crazy. I didn't think I'd ever, as an adult, look up and be like, I know agencies obviously compete, but for what the head of the agency to say this publicly, that's crazy to me.
This is just not in the best interest of your client. I'm sorry, we're not going to send you to one of the NBA teams. Yeah, that's just not in the best interest of your client.
Crazy. It's almost malpractice. If I was a client of Clutch, I'd be like, dude, you're going to send me where I want to go. That's your job.
Yeah, biggest media market in the country. I'm not allowed to go there because you got beef. Like,
you literally got beef. That's what it is.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
I never understood how it could. You're supposed to take your emotions out of it. This should be personal. You know, you're still getting paid as the agent, whatever agent percentage it is, and you shouldn't be mad at the percentage from what I understand anyway. If you're getting 10% of $200 million, why are you pissed off? Is my question to a guy like Rich Paul. I'm going to steer you away from the. I mean, granted, let's throw the bone out. Zach LaVine is the player we're talking about, literally, who's a Clutch client. And, you know, I'm more than sure if you ask Zach where he wanted to go and where would he want to go. Oh, do you want to go to Minnesota? No. No. You know, you want to go to Charlotte? No. How about New York? I mean, ding, ding, ding. Where else would he want to go? Yeah. A guy of that stature, not that I think Zach is like great, he's lost a lot, you know, with injuries. It's still a very good score. I'm not saying that. But we heard Kristaps Porzingis say it. The grass ain't greener. Dude, it ain't. It's just not greener than New York.
No.
You know, you thinking that you're playing somewhere else until you come play here. You see Josh Hart, he want to ride a tricycle around all the tri-state now because he's like, well, there's nothing better than New York. You know, look at how they cheer for me, because that's exactly what happens if you do your damn job here. You're celebrated on such a higher level that no other market, even including LA. I know they get talked about, but they come and show up to their shows late too, you know, like Miami, because it's a star-studded event. New Yorkers love basketball. They love their hoops. Similar to how Indiana probably loves their hoops. You play great here. You're getting admired in such a way. And Zach LaVine, with his skill level, if he hits 50 points in the Garden, it's like 110 points, as opposed to hitting 50 in Chicago or 50 in Minnesota. Nobody gives a damn about it. You know, John Starks is famous for a dunk.
I gotta say something about Zach LaVine, and I'll only take 7 seconds for this. It's the Amari Stoudemire contract.
Yep.
You're going to get 2 solid years out of him. It's going to look good. And then for the remaining 2, you're going to want to blow your brains out and try to figure out how many assets you have to give away to get out of that contract. Yep. Because he's eject. It's the Amari Stoudemire contract. What nothing to do with it? No.
I mean, it's crazy that this past season is the most games he's played since he's second year in the league. It's crazy because, like, you would think with his injuries, like, he'd be doing. So I give him props for playing, but
But
maybe he
didn't
should
not
have load
touch
management.
basketball, like the entire
Huh?
summer before that year? Didn't he like not touch a basketball or something like that for the entire
He-
summer before? Like that's
Yeah.
a big warning, like
Yeah.
lights going on. You know,
I believe he has a degenerative knee condition. I don't think they've said that, but from what I hear about how he rests, it sounds like he has something going on there that's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with
but
That's
but they said Chris Paul had the same thing, and he's been playing forever. So I guess but Levine relies a little more on his athleticism.
yeah.
So for someone like him, it'd be more debilitating than for someone like Paul, who, is just he's 4 or 5 steps ahead of everyone else at all times. He plays that way. But I'm with. I mean, these guys have been talking about Zach LaVine, I feel like, for years. All the other guys in the group. Craig loves Zach LaVine. He won't say it, but he does. He loves Zach LaVine. It's just fun. Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to talk and bust on him for it because it's just fun for me. But yeah, again, he's a very good player. He's not a great player. He's not someone you gut your team for. He's not someone you even healthy. He's not all this. And if you add that on top of it, it would be, like you said, it'd be a disaster. It would be so bad.
Absolutely.
I do not want this dude here. And it just brings us full circle. Like we're going to be sitting. If this is if this is the route the Knicks are going, and they're going to continue to try and add that star via free agency, we might be waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
I went through ESPN the other day and went team by team and looked through their rosters, and it's not there.
Nope.
Yeah, there's all the.
There's not.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no.
Like Ty and I were talking before, and he said he said he'd only give up like big assets for Jokic or Luka. Like those 2 guys, he feels are the guys that you can gut your team for. I brought up some other guys I wouldn't gut them for, but I give up good assets for guys like Halliburton, guys like that who are on our timeline and can develop and become great within the structure of the team. Josh Giddey I put out there, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I would love to add him as well. Like those are the kind of guys you can make trades for. I don't think OKC is trading either one of them, so forget that idea. But that's it. They're never available, right? When Halliburton got traded, I was stunned, but I can't see the Pacers doing that, doing what Sacramento, right? So it's just a very strange time. And unfortunately nowadays, unless the player says I want out, the teams aren't going to be
That's what has to happen. And I think, and I know this sounds crazy, and I know that because of the dislike they have for our franchise, it would be an uphill climb. I could see Dallas going really bad. I could see that situation falling apart. Kyrie with guaranteed contract going full out Kyrie, that place falling apart, and Luka going, get me the hell out of here. Get me out of here.
He's the one.
Mark Cuban. Yeah.
He's the one guy. It's so funny you say that, Joe. Eric knows I've talked about Luka for a minute. I said they're on a clock. They've been on a clock probably since KP, to be very honest, because that didn't work out at all.
This Kyrie thing doesn't work out?
Oh, well, Kyrie, being the Kyrie that we've grown to love, said that he's not settled in on Dallas right now. He's going to talk to other teams.
Yeah, he said that today.
He wants to sign to a team he plans on staying with for a long time. If I'm Dallas right now, what is that telling you? He don't want to stay there a long time with y'all.
I would just be like, go.
Go. But Cuban can't say go. I would never think that somebody would ever be in this position. You're depending on Kyrie Irving right now to save your franchise. Has said no one ever else other than now Mark Cuban, who thought he was being slick with, tanking at the wrong time or the right time to save his pick. And if Kyrie Irving walks, they got nothing.
Yeah.
You can't roll that team out. Now, I've said Luka, I thought would end up in LA. That's what I've been saying for the longest time. Not even like being a New York homer, like, oh, he'll end up on the Knicks. In fact, he doesn't play well when he comes to the Garden. He's not at a Luka moment in the Garden. Really. When you go back
Yeah.
watch him. He has not had that moment. He kind of does not play great here. But he looks like a Laker type player, in my opinion. Like he would go to LA and be be the star or whatever, be new Showtime or whatever. But I'm not looking at him landing here. But they are going to lose him because those trades, they were trying to trade, who was it? I think it was DeAndre Ayton. What's the guy they were trying to get now?
I like DeAndre Ayton.
And they were trading him, trying to get him for Tim Hardaway Jr., whatever the pick they got. It's like Phoenix is not taking that deal. Are you serious?
Please, if you don't believe
they wanted, oh Jesus, what was his name? Somebody else added into the deal, and it fell apart. But I remember reading that deal like, there's no way they're giving Ayton for that package.
No.
there was a rumor that the Knicks had offered Randall and 3 first-round picks for him, and they said no.
Yeah, I heard too. That was last year, though.
But still, I mean, I'm just saying, 3 first-round picks. Yeah, I mean, if they would have done that for this season, Randall was, again, All-NBA. They would have had an All-NBA player for DeAndre Ayton.
I suggested on the fan page here, Mitch Robinson and Quickly for Ayton. And there was a lot of debate that went on with that with Jason Brown. Jason Brown was like, "You're out of your mind." But again, I like Ayton. I do.
Ayton as a 5 here is not a bad.
I like.
Well, he can score. He could definitely score.
Worst move. It's not the worst moves on the planet.
He's been the fourth option there, and he just checks in and gives you 18 and 10 as the fourth option.
And he doesn't want to be there, and he's giving you 18 and 10.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he's a little moody though.
He'll be the fourth option. A number 1 pick as a fourth option is unheard of in most instances, and unless you're like Ola Wakandi or somebody. But I mean, like this dude can really, roll out and give you 8, double and a block. Something like Nick fans also. I mean, I know about homegrown. I mean, I love our homegrown players, but some of these guys the fans are smoking homegrown also. When they start looking at some of our players in lights that they don't live in, like Mitch. Yeah, love you, Mitch. You're not doubling. Think about your whole job during the whole time that you are playing in the game for X amount of minutes as a focal point of the Knicks. You're not doubling. You're not doing what David Lee did, who got killed for not being a great defender, but he got you those boards and those points. And Mitch is only blocking literally almost 1 shot a game.
2.
Oh, it's 2?
So,
yeah.
To me, he's supposed to be the Kembe Mutombo of the modern game. Because that's all you're asked to do is rebound and block shots. And put back.
Yeah.
And you got a high percentage, but dude, you should be you should at least be 12 and probably 15 boards. This is all you do all game.
In his defense, I will say that he doesn't play traditional center minutes. He plays about 27, 28 a game, which I guess it's still good. He should still probably get 10 in that time. I'm not saying I agree with you. He should be giving you more there. But if he played a traditional center 35 minutes, he probably would be double-doubling. Again, I can't say that for certain, but that would be how his numbers project, just thinking in my head what they are. I love him. I do. I'm really a big fan of his. But injuries, let's be honest, injuries have been an issue. He's been hurt every year.
I want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, he does disappear at times. There are games where he doesn't show up. He's a tremendous offensive rebounder. I mean, that's the one stat you can look at and say, yes, he does that. That's what he does really well. But I was arguing with this guy on Twitter today. He's like, unless the lob is perfect to him, he doesn't have great hands. And I don't see that personally. I think the guy was laying on a little thick. He's not really asked to do anything with the ball when he gets it, and he's even said that. So it's not like he's given that leeway or that ability. I like DeAndre Ayton too. I'm a fan. I'm going to say that as well. I am a fan of his, and if they did that kind of a trade, I would understand it. I definitely would understand why they're doing it. If Randall's not here, but I think with again the coach that we have, Ayton would be a win. So that's my opinion.
There's something about Mitchell Robinson that scares me. I've said before that I think that him and Quickly, you have seen the best that you will see probably from them. I think Quickly's going to plateau. Mitchell Robinson, you got a healthy season out of him. Have you ever seen him run? Have you ever watched his gait? The way he walks, the way he runs, it is uncoordinated, it is out of control, and is the kind of thing that over time will cause injuries. Like those things are really, really real. If you do not have a fluid walking, running motion, Miles Turner, another person that his gait and the way he ran is very concerning. I'm concerned about long-term lower body injuries consistently. Like, watch him move.
Yeah.
He does not move fluidly. He does not plant well. And again, these are the kind of things that cause stress, build up in your joints, build up in your feet. Like, I see him as time goes on being even more and more of an injury concern. That, there may be nothing to that, but it's crossed my mind watching him move. I'm like, man, that is not fluid. That is not good.
Yeah, he does have a weird gait and a weird running style. He's not Rodman, that's for sure. Rodman always looked like he was trying out for track. Whenever he ran and looking at
high knees.
Yeah, the high knees, and then you look at a guy like you're saying about Mitchell Robinson. That is very concerning. And it's funny, that point you made, I'm endorsing your point that I don't see I think these guys are where they are. I don't know what can Quickly do better. He can maybe become more efficient, but is he going to all of a sudden start changing his mind on how he sees the game? I don't think that's going to happen. No. Is he going to, turn into a different type of player? I don't see that happening. No. He's not an athlete like that where you're saying, well, he's athletic. He can explode to the rim. I mean, we had a guy who doesn't want to really go and do layups. He wants to chuck shots. Mitchell Robinson, what else is he going to do? Is he going to add a hook shot to his game? Is he going to add a post to his game? Is he going to add a three-point shot only when it's not the off season? That's one time we see him do anything magically offensive.
He lights it up in the IG on the Instagram.
In there, and the G, the real G League, the IG League. I mean, the dude is lit. And then you come in there and he's like a mouse. So, that's what I'm saying. Like the homegrown comment I'm making is that they get really turned on to their homegrown, literally, and start saying, well, we can't trade this guy. But it's like, you can't play 4-on-5 basketball. You can't have your bench player who's your sixth man collect $20 million.
No.
What Quickly is looking at and disappear and only offer an occasional hot streak like your Vinnie Johnson. Nobody uses microwaves like that anymore. We got air fryers nowadays, dog. Nobody, we're not waiting around for you to get warmed up anymore. And that's what Quickly is. It's like you're gonna live and die by his games.
Yeah.
And you can't count on that knowing. I mean, as dogged as people dog RJ, and I get it, but an inefficient dude is still finding a way of getting you 18 points and 19 points a game. No matter how terrible his game is, he's still getting you those points. Whereas a guy like Emmanuel Quickly is like, there was an APB out for him until only time somebody knew he was in the game when he got hurt. When he got hurt, everybody was like, oh, man, he was hurt. Other than that, when do you see him? His injury was more important than the damn production he was given.
And he was terrible in the playoffs. Another guy who's
terrible. And he's supposed to be, people are enamored and love him because they're like, his big moments in the garden. He's flat, but nobody paying him to be regular. You paying him to be post. You're not paying him to be regular. There's no dude on the Knicks. Knicks fans, you can't want a regular dude. Who wants regular dudes? I mean, that's why I don't like Julius Randle. You're regular. You don't do nothing in the post. You're not postseason. You're a regular dude. That's why I'm taking Audrey and Brunson over most of them because it's like they're not regular in the postseason. They're regular. Audrey's be a little mid, obviously, in the regular season, but he come out and prove that when the lights is on, I'm good. That's what you need to see. And I don't see it from Emmanuel. I don't see Mitch adding nothing to his game that Tom would utilize. So I'm like, you need to upgrade the 5, whether it hurts you or not. You're either going to put Mitch on the bench to be a backup, which is not the worst thing in the world, but the starting 5 has to be able to score. You can't sit there and play 4 and 5 offense in an offensive league. Offensive league, you got one guy there who won't score. How the hell is that supposed to work? You're going to lose a lot of damn games in tight moments if he can't catch a ball and do a move that keeps the defense honest. Because that's what basketball is about, keeping the defense honest. The reason they were able to trap Brunson in that Miami game, because they know he had no one else to pass it to. Who the hell else was he going to pass it to? They knew nobody else was going to get a shot. So they're like,
Josh Hart was wide open. Josh
wide
Hart was
open. And he looked like this at Josh. That's his boy too. He's like, I ain't even going to pass it to you. Now that's bad. That's bad.
He's literally like, remember?
Hey,
they teach you. That's what they teach you to do with your open clap. Yeah. No,
he's like, I'm gonna turn this over.
He didn't pass the ball. That was funny, man.
No.
All right. Well, we've gone through it. We've gone through all of it. Oh, real quick, yeah, Josh Hart extended his extension deadline is tomorrow. We'll let you know. We'll let you know if they sign him to an extension tomorrow. Oh, that's the other.
I think he's opting in, and they're gonna do. He still can get an extension by opting in. I think he can take the opt-in, and basically he's getting a 5-year contract. He'll be extended from that 4 extra years atop, which is still going to equal about $78 million. Like he's mad at that. Come on, he's taking that. All to get his boy a job. Isn't that something else? You want to take?
Yeah, I don't want to get into. I mean, we gotta go. We really have to go, but I don't want to get into this. But bothers me a little bit that it's really just for the second half of the season that we saw that from him. I'm just putting it out there.
That's a good point.
I mean, I like him as a player. I'm just putting that out there. That's all I'm saying. So they might want to consider that. All right, Joe. Again, thanks for coming on, brother.
Joe, thank you.
My pleasure.
This was awesome. Yeah, this was awesome. I'm sorry, guys, for my technical difficulties before, but it was weird. I was able to do all this switching around, and you guys were fine. I did not skip a beat, so that was awesome. Ty, tell people where they can find
you. You can find me at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also find me on our Facebook All Knicked Up page. I was dropping some articles. Always looking forward to engaging with our lovely family, All Knicked Up family. So please come and join the barbecue and participate in some of these hot topics that we talk about. Please.
Just no raisins, the potato salad. That's it.
Yeah, no raisins. No raisins potato salad. Just bring ice at that point.
Joe, you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I want to plug the fan page. So, a little bit of a history. I know guys like Eric, Ty, Craig, John, but also guys like Craig Hodges, may rest in peace. Bob Greenberg, who is an outstanding human being. If you're watching, you're awesome, Bob. On Alan Hahn's Knicks Fix page. And it was something around 2010 I got involved with. I got to know all these guys. And it became a part of my life. And interacting with different fans. And granted, if you do something and something's good long enough, all the weirdos show up and all of that stuff. But I really hope to see everybody interact with the page respectfully. And for it to grow into that, because I kind of feel that loss of the Knicks Fix personally and kind of going back and forth with people and getting that kind of interaction. And what I hope for your fan page is that it turns into potentially a better, more respectful version of that. Because, again, we all love the team. We're all passionate and all of those things. And I've really gotten great insights and great takes from people over the years, like things that made me think and even changed my mind a little bit. And I think that's just the best part of being a fan when you're talking with other fans. But again, you know, it's okay to disagree respectfully and everything like that. But just to reach out, I'm going to be on the page. I'm going to be posting stuff. I'm going to be interacting with people and stuff. And I hope everybody else does because it's just such a nice thing. That's all I got.
Oh, thank
Nicely
you.
put. Great, nicely
Thank
put.
you. Yeah, I mean that was kind of my when we first decided to do the pod, I was like, we should have I said we should have a Facebook group because we have the page as well, which is kind of where you can put news and things like that, and just it's for more visibility. It goes on the Facebook watch cycle, the podcast, so people if they're just scanning their stuff and they're interested in basketball, they might get a view of it just by that. So that's what's good about the Facebook, the All Nicked Up page. But the group is really for the fans that we have. And yeah, I mean, I said before, we wouldn't be sitting here if not for the Knicks fix that Alan Hahn ran for so many years. Why he didn't change it over to a group, I don't know. He just uses it now as basically a personality page for him, and that's fine. That's his career now, and I wish him all the success. But he could have you have the option to create a group off of that. He didn't do it. Maybe he just got tired of all the of all the crap that goes along with it. But yeah, I mean that is what I think we want to do here. We want to create kind of that same type of place where people can come and talk about the team like we did. And like these guys are my friends now. Joe and Ty are my friends. I consider them friends. I've hung out with both of them. So it has only been talking basketball now. It's been life. Like I consider these guys my boys. So you might fall into something like that too, where you live close to the people that you meet and you decide you want to link up, you have something in common. And that's kind of what our part of one of the things we wanted to do with this group and with this podcast is just to kind of bring, like I said, we're all fans. We all started this way. So if you guys listening in the group, if you've been like hesitant to post or whatever, don't be hesitant. Just post what you want to post. Just be respectful of everyone. That's all I ask. And, we'll be good because we get to review all the posts anyway. So if there's anything disrespectful, we can all just be like, yeah, that's not going up.
Yeah.
So just be respectful and, everything will be cool. But Joe, again, thank you so much for coming on, man. Welcome back anytime. And again, we do this every Wednesday night. It's usually been 9:00. It's been 8:30 the past few weeks. I think for the summer, we'll just keep it at the 8:30 spot. Going forward, we'll see what happens when the season begins, but it goes fast. Like the summer goes fast and then the season's starting up again. So, but make sure you guys check in here every week, 8:30. Again, thank you, Joe. Ty, as always. For Ty and Eric and Joe, this is All Nicked Up. See you next time.